Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test. Audio good? My mic looks quiet. Is my mic quiet? Does it seem quieter than normal? Maybe if I cram my face in there, it'll fix. A little bit? Okay, hold on a second. How about now? Boop, boop, boop. Test, 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 test. There we go. Back it off a little bit. How's everyone doing? Long time no see. Well, it's been like a week, but markets have just been so boring. There's just really nothing to talk about. I'm not one to just stream for the sake of streaming because I feel like that's just, I know it's probably not good streamer etiquette to just not stream. You know, I'm like a court jester of some sorts where I'm creating content and dancing around for approval and stuff, but there's nothing exciting to talk about. I don't want to talk. So here we are. All right, let's see how many people we got. A solid 18. A solid 18. Okay, let's get started. So let's start by looking at the Dixie. Nothing terribly insightful here. It's been the same thing the last couple streams. My couple of streams, I mean couple of months. It's sitting on this macro zone. Macro zone started in the 80s, so it's been here for, 30, 40 years. Got some attention back here. Kind of just shot straight through it right there. But for the most part, you can see the zone is respected. And we are currently sitting on top of it at a very interesting point because Bitcoin is currently running into resistance as Dixie is running into support. What we really want to see is we want to see Dixie shoot through support so that Bitcoin can break through resistance. Right now, that's not what we're seeing. This is kind of what I was worried about a few weeks ago when we first started talking about this. This thing can just bounce here for a very long period of time. These are weekly candles. And until this thing breaks through this support, I do not see Bitcoin rallying. Okay. All of this turbulence and stuff here has coincided with Bitcoin doing choppy nonsense. And when we zoom out, it's very clear why. I mean, this thing's a humongous level or a humongous zone that's been respected for quite some time. So I don't think it's going to be a clean snap. I mean, we did see a clean snap through it, one time, but even when it broke through, it still came back and retested it before it continued. So this is the zone of interest. This is the final boss. This is the zone to beat. And if we do bounce here, I think Bitcoin's going to pull back. Now, what do these bounces look like? That remains to be seen, okay? But until this thing gets a clean snap through here, a clean closing below this, this zone of stuff right here, I don't see Bitcoin doing anything, constructive. In fact, if we do get a bounce here, like maybe we do something like this, boom, boom, boom. Any bounce here is going to make Bitcoin pull back. And that's what the charts show for Bitcoin. But let's go ahead and make some notes. So daily discussion 5/10/2023. And we'll start with Dixie. See. Nothing really update here. Weekly/monthly candles are sitting on the same macro zone. It's established back. I guess what we'll say is we're looking for a break of support. If Bitcoin, go ahead. Well, Bitcoin and basically everything else, basically equities, looking for a break of support to give Bitcoin go ahead rally through resistance. Any bounces off support will very likely build pullback in other markets. Okay, so yeah, that's about where we're at there. Basically the same thing that's been going on for a while. Until this thing breaks, it's just gonna chill, right? You can see the last few weeks, basically like the last month and a half, have been sitting on this zone, and similarly, Bitcoin's been running into resistance, right? When we look at trend metrics, I mean, it is objectively trending down, but this is not, by Bollinger Band standards, a quote unquote strong trend, because we're not trending on this like lower band fella. When we look at the cloud, this is actually looking really good. This is promising. We see all the hallmarks of a downtrend. The only thing that is somewhat sketchy is the rate at which, so when we look at the cloud, we have the fast and the slow moving average. The slow moving average is the red guy. Fast moving average is the blue guy. And until this thing starts trending again, this Tenkan, it's kind of, even though it's objectively bearish, it's not the best trend. For best trend, we want to see both the Kijun, which is this guy, and the Tenkan, which is this guy, moving in unison. And that's not what we see. We see a flat Tenkan, a Kijun that's quickly coming down. And unless this thing gets moving downward, we could see what is called a TK cross. Here's an example of a bearish TK cross, where we see, the Tenkan kind of just chilling. We see the Kijun quickly moving up, and then it crosses and a new trend begins in the opposite direction. We could see the same thing here. So if this thing comes down and it crosses, we could actually see a reversal on Dixie. And the fact that we're sitting on support, that should be something to keep an eye on, right? Weekly, let's make some notes here. Weekly B bands is objectively bearish, but not a but is lacking hallmarks of a strong. Until we see the market trending, a lower band are not a strong trend. And similar, right? So similar to the B bands, Ichimoku cloud is also objectively bearish. However, we see a flat Tenkan and a aggressively, how do I want to word that? And a aggressively descending Kijun, and might see a potential K cross. This would be an early sign bullish reversal. Note the fact that we are sitting on macro support should give us pause, and this is something we should keep a close eye. Okay, so essentially what this is saying is we're sitting on support. We had the opportunity to continue through, and right now we're kind of hesitating. Does that mean we're going to bounce? No. But the more we stall here, the more likely it is that we see some sort of reversal. So here's an example, looking back at prior TK crosses, right? So let's see if I can get one. So here's one right here, right? So we had a quickly moving quickly moving Kijun, a flat and somewhat kind of non-productive Tenkan. And when we step through, we can see that these TK crosses often yield reversals to the upside. Now, how far that reversal actually goes, that is, the cloud's not going to inform you on that. What it is going to do is just say, hey, the trend is weakening to the downside. Look for potential upside and play it by ear. Basically, what the takeaway is. Oh, you can't see the notes? Oh my God, are you serious? I've been writing so many notes. Why? Thank you for whoever told me that. Look at all these notes I wrote. God, I'm over here typing on this thing like an asshole. Can't even see any of it. I was sitting there typing in the dark. Sorry. Well, there you go. Don't worry about like writing the notes down. I post them all in my stream Discord, which you can find here. And yeah, if you want these notes, you don't need to write them down. Like I post them there as soon as the stream ends, and you can grab them there. Okay. Any questions on Dixie? Otherwise, we're gonna move over to Bitcoin because it's doing some weird shit like this. All right, so let's start with this monthly view. So this monthly view, even though like monthly view on Bitcoin is like, it's kind of a toss up just because it's such a high time frame for a hyper volatile asset. So I don't know that monthly is the most insightful, but something we should note is that we are trending below the monthly cloud. Okay. Anytime we see clouds moving up like this where they're really thin and we kind of slide sideways, this to me says, this has all the hallmarks of, at minimum, further macro consolidation. Macro consolidation could take the form of this massive range. It could take a lot of different forms. But what this definitely says is that we are not ready to trend on the monthly time frame. Now, could that change and could we push up out of here and all that other stuff? Yes. But if we're playing the odds, this says that trend is not your friend right now, and it looks, like maybe it pulls back, maybe it does a little bit of sideways and creeps up, but until it gets above this monthly cloud, monthly chart is objectively bearish here, guys. Like we see this, we saw the Kumo twist here. We're below the cloud. Tenkan is below the cloud. The only thing that's really stopping us from having a full-blown bear trend on the monthly time frame is this Kijun up here. So at best, you could say it's weak bearish, but it is objectively bearish, right? The thing that we were really hoping for was this monthly closing above the cloud, and it didn't. If we look closely, it failed to close above the cloud. So this is not what we wanted to see on the monthly on the monthly close. When we look a little closer on the weekly time frame, there's some good things cooking up here. Okay, so in my opinion, it's probably best that we didn't do the edge to edge. Edge to edge setup was we closed here and we were looking for a rally to the upside. As long as we don't fall out of this cloud, there's a lot of hope here. Okay, we see the Tenkan and the Kijun trending inside the cloud now. Great. Price is above both of them. Great. And we even see this Kumo twist here. This has all the hallmarks of the beginning of a potential new trend. The only thing we want to see now is price making its way through the cloud. Now, is this going to get through the cloud without Dixie breaking through support? I don't think so. That's why it's going to be really important to watch this Dixie chart, because if we see this trending down with a combination of Bitcoin trending up, these are all the things that I want to see for really good macro confidence that, this isn't a rally that's just going to dump on us. it might do something similar to something like this, maybe something like this, where we see more weeks of upside and less so just. I mean, we've basically been in the same range for a month. No, 2 months. 2 months now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 weeks, arguably 9 weeks. We've been in the same band of prices. So, macro trends are a slow moving ship. As long as we're not slamming into the iceberg and breaking down below, this thing looks pretty promising. So let's go ahead and make some notes too. So see, say monthly cloud is objectively bearish since we are below cloud. It's trending since this is below the cloud. Let's say there weekly. Okay, so now weekly cloud has a lot of promising characteristics. See list. No twist. Price is trending above the and we are inside cloud. As long as we don't fall out of the cloud, this is all the hallmarks of early stage trend continuation. Early stage bullish trend. So there's no either bullish trend continuation. Next thing we would want to see is price trending above. Okay. When we look at the B bands, let's see what they say. B bands are still objectively bullish. I like the fact that we haven't completely nuked here. Okay. The fact that the weekly lower band is coming up to price rather than price coming down, that's great. As long as we're in the upper half of the B bands, it is considered objectively bullish. Bands objectively. The fact that we crash down to the end, promising. Want to see pulling toward price. So yeah, as long as we're chilling above this upper boundary here, objectively bullish, looks good. Does that mean we're not going to see little tiny pullbacks? No, that doesn't mean that. When we drill a little deeper, I'm going to go into some targets that I'm expecting. Probably seen it on Twitter, but yeah. So potential pullback targets. Anytime we're in an uptrend, buying the weekly midline is a great buy, and vice versa. Anytime we're in a downtrend, selling the weekly midline is a great sell. Going back in time, it's not 100% strike rate. Nothing's 100% strike rate, but in general, the weekly midline is a great metric. Buys. and sells. Here, for example, right? I mean, yes, there are examples where it just completely nuked through it, so there is some nuance here. Putting blind buys on the midline, you gotta manage your risk, right? And the way that you can manage your risk is up to you. But anything that closes, like say for example, you were looking to buy the midline and it closed below the midline, something like this, that would be an immediate get out of jail. Not get out of jail. Yeah, get out of jail. Get out of jail free. I don't know what I'm looking. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but you get it, right? So a close below, that's a non-starter for me. A close above, great continuation signal. Close below, get out of here, right? And vice versa here, right? So boom. So weekly B bands, great metric to go by. So this is a great buy opportunity here. Great metric to go by. So since we're in an uptrend, we're objectively bullish. You should assume that pullbacks are for buying until the trend is broken. And right now the trend is bullish. So we should assume that buying the midline is a safe opportunity, but we want to watch for a close below the midline because that would be considered a broken trend. So let's add this. Pull back to dip. Line is a great place to buy. Actively markets to sell bearish markets. Set a note here. Buying the midline. Not want to see a close below the midline. So if we buy, say blind buy midline, watch for a close below to cut your losses. Okay. Fine. Okay. Let's look at some other ones, right? So even if you don't look at trend, there's obvious structure here. Right here. Everyone and their mom is watching this zone for a buy opportunity. And it just so happens to be just below the midline. So maybe we do something like this. The market comes down, wicks below the midline, but closes above. That would be amazing. That'd be great. It'd be scary. It wouldn't, you'd be scared for a day or two. But these are weekly candles. So we wait for the weekly close, right? And the zone here is so it's like 24.3. I already forgot what I said. 24.3. It's 24.350. 24,350 to 23,675. 675. So similar to buying the midline, we also do not want to see a close below this zone. So if you blind buy this, for example, right, you got spot bids down there, market comes down, anything that closes down below this zone, that's not good, right? We want to cut our losses there. That is a major sign of broken structure in the market, obviously paired with a broken trend. And that is, If that does happen, we would target this lower band. Or if you're playing a liquidity play, we would look to target a move to the liquidity down below. But this note here, so similar to the B bands strategy, dip strategy, see a close below the pullback zone at our losses. This is a sign of a failed structure. And this usually yields hunt for liquidity. Yields an aggressive hunt for liquidity. So something that closes down below here, I would fully expect this to keep going down. And this would be your first line in the sand, right? This is your first liquidity zone. If that doesn't work, here's your second, here's your third. Right? So shit could get really aggressive. But again, we're in an objective bullish trend. Tips are for buying, guys, right? So we look for this, and then we just want to have a plan of like, how do I know when I'm wrong, right? Closing below here, that's when you know you're wrong. Okay. If we drill a little deeper, like say we look at like the 4-hour chart, there's some obvious, like the world's most obvious symmetrical triangle here broke down. Oops. It broke down, right? Broke down right here. And we saw this turbo, and I don't know what caused this. If you guys know what caused this, chime in. But I was seeing something about something very similar to like basically this when Mt. Gox coins were allegedly moving. But who knows? However, the 4-hour trend is objectively flipped bearish, right? So we see the 4-hour trend getting a, and this is the 50, the 200 EMA, by the way. 4-hour trend is, we got a death cross here. Market came up and tagged it perfectly. And immediately turbo nuked it. You know, how this candle closes remains to be seen. It is an hour and a half. It has an hour and a half left on it. So maybe it just ends up being a shakeout and it rallies. But if this thing closes a giant bearish engulfing like it's currently situated, not the best look. It did just take out a huge liquidity pool down here, right? Which is why this thing's bouncing. And it came down here. Buyers speculated, so they came in, but we want to wait for this thing to close before we make any judgments about it. You could also construe this thing to be a head and shoulders top. So shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder. The target, funny enough, is, so we measure it like this. 1,000 approximately. 1,000 approximately. Target is deep below here. So if this thing moves down, that would hit all of our targets. Pullback zone, the weekly midline. We just do not want to see this thing come down here and stay. If it does, right? The most bullish thing this market can do is it has this big setup for a deep stab, and it fails. So if it comes down here, and if it finds support here and it rallies, that's huge. That's a really big, that's a huge check in the bull column. And we want to keep an eye out for any aggressive moves to the downside that bounce, because if in bull markets, if you have a bearish setup and it underperforms, that is a big check in the bull column. When you see things hit their bearish targets, that's usually a sign of weakening bullishness. And the reason for that is because people are front running, right? So if this thing comes down here and it doesn't hit its target way down here and it bounces, that means everyone's front running the shit out of this, and there's a lot of bullish pressure. However, if this thing does hit its target down here, that means that people aren't front running. Their buying isn't as aggressive as we want to see, and that is a cause for concern. So if we do get a pullback, we're watching this zone, the zone I outlined here. Okay. Any questions about Bitcoin? A lot of the same stuff I've been saying for weeks, so it's nothing terribly exciting. We've been in this stupid range for the last 2 months, so it's pretty boring. Okay, let's go ahead and trudge forward. We'll take a look at Ether. Then I'll take some requests if you guys have any, and then we'll wrap it up. So Ether, I'm not a very big fan of this Ether setup. There was a humongous Adam and Eve double bottom. The fact that I broke the neckline and closed below, this is very sketchy to me. Whenever we see, so again, right, I was talking about how if, say for example, you have a head and shoulders, right, and it hits its bearish targets, that's a check in the bull column. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. If it has a head and shoulders and it underperforms the target, so that target is down here and it rallies here, this is a huge check in the bull column. Vice versa, if we have a bullish setup that breaks out and fails, that is a huge check in the bear column. So anytime we have like double bottoms, they have a bullish target, and it doesn't meet it and it reverses, it's not good. Okay. We have this neckline here. It very clearly broke out. It failed and reversed. That means a ton of people are now trapped. And when we look at things like this, I was talking about how on Bitcoin it seeks liquidity, right? Breakout failures tend to hunt liquidity to the downside. This is no exception. So the first line of liquidity for this is going to be here. Next one is here. Next one is here. So the fact that this broke out and it failed, there's a huge flashing light that says, yo, this should not have happened. Why is this happening? Where is it going? I would be looking for a pullback to at least 1370 for Ether. Very sketchy that it did this. Now, if it closes back above, like so here's your neckline, say it's back up here. Okay, well then crisis averted. But as long as it's chilling below here, there's this big flashing warning sign that's like, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. This is weakness. This is major, major weakness here. And no surprise, again, going back to Dixie, it's occurring when Dixie is slamming into support. So it's all connected here. Let's see what the daily trend looks. Daily trend doesn't look bad. We are inside the daily cloud, so yeah, there's a lot of sketchy things going on here. Yeah. It also had this megaphone thing that failed, right? It broke out. Everyone was like, yay, yay, bulls, but there was zero volume. It fell short. Bam. Now it's below. Tried to rally again, and it dumped. So this Ether's on very shaky ground here. Okay. Other than that, do you guys have any questions about anything or any tickers you want to look at? So I promised it would be short. There's not a whole lot to talk about. There's not a whole lot to update. So I don't want to just talk for the sake of talking. Want to look at GBTC? Yeah, sure. So GBTC, Same story as Bitcoin, but slightly less bullish because it's, closer to falling out of the cloud. But as long as it's chilling inside the cloud, I do like that we found support on this gap. So we gap filled. So there's a big gap here. We filled the gap to the upside. And now we're finding support here. That's great. The fact that we haven't closed below this is good. But if we do start closing weeklies below here, that's going to be definitely sketchy. But the cloud looks okay. We're about to get a weekly Kumo twist similar to what we saw in Bitcoin, and this thing's trending upward. We're finding support on the daily 50 EMA, great. Finding support on this gap close, great. And we're finding support on the daily Tenkan. So this looks good. This looks okay. It is still, early stages. It's not strong bull yet, but as like if you're looking for hopeful prospects, this looks okay. As long as this doesn't just nuke out of the cloud, it's fine. Yeah, I think GPTC is okay. If we look at B bands, same story, right? We're in the upper half. Pullback targets would be this guy here. Yeah, I think GPTC it's okay. Also finding support on this zone here, which I just noticed. So, yeah, GPTC looks okay. It's just mostly in consolidation, right? So when we look at the B bands, you see the BBW here, how it's like rounding that. This thing just needs to come in. So it's going to take, who knows, probably another 4 weeks for this thing to really consolidate. Either that or it does something like this, where it just goes sideways and then breaks through. But, again, we have these objective metrics for a reason. All right. Any other ones you guys want to look at? All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We have the next Justice League of Crypto Market Power Hour next Wednesday, so a week from today, and that'll be on my stream this week or this time. Last week it was on Jack's stream. This time it'll be on mine. Hopefully, I pray to the gods that there is something more interesting to talk about because this sideways consolidation is just boring me to death, and it's good because go out and touch grass and all that stuff. Like, find your passion project and go do that. Don't just stare at these charts because this is lame. But yeah, hopefully there's more to talk about. But we'll wrap it up. We'll keep it short. I promise you it's short. We're under 45 minutes. It's good. It's good. Good enough for me. If something does happen between now and Friday, I'll stream on Friday. But if it's this sideways consolidation, probably not going to because it's just rinse repeat. If you do want these notes, head over to my Discord. Link is above in the chat. I'll post these as soon as the stream ends, and I'll post appropriate replay stream to accompany the notes. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day or great rest of your night for some folks, and we'll pick it back up in a few days. Bye.